carpenter frogs. How about that?
There's a...
Oh.
The wilderness offers freedom, but it also hides dangers that can become deadly in an instant. Whether it's a 15-meter free fall from a daring climb, or a stranger wearing a hooded mask circling your truck in the middle of the night, the line between adventure and tragedy is very thin. If you find yourself cornered miles away from help, what will be your next move? Chris Ignoto from the YouTube channel. Nature Here and Now was deep inside a wetland area at 3:30 in the morning, filming a video focused on unusual animal sounds. What followed would become one of the most unsettling wildlife encounters ever recorded on camera. Over the next 25 minutes, Chris found himself locked in a strange vocal exchange with a fox. Each time he made a sound, the fox answered with howls, while slowly moving closer through the wetlands, turning the situation into a tense and increasingly uncomfortable standoff.
How you guys doing? Chris Ignoto here, and this is a little bit awkward. I have no idea where I am. How does that feel when it's 400 years ago and you're responding to invitation from a close relative to start a wonderful community in a very promising future, only to be lured into the middle of nowhere by the sounds of an amphibian? Probably cost a person or two to stray the wrong direction. Carpenter frogs. How about that?
Some viewers who later watched the footage suggested the fox might have been used to human presence or possibly guarding nearby cubs. Others noticed something far more troubling, pointing out that the fox's behavior strongly resembled territorial aggression, as if Chris had unknowingly entered an area the animal considered its own, and refused to let him leave without making that clear. Regardless of the explanation, Chris documented one of the most unusual wildlife encounters in the Pine Barrens, a 25-minute confrontation with a gray fox that refused to act the way wild animals normally do. If the worst-case scenario had occurred, the fox might not have been bluffing at all, but instead testing how close it could move before attacking. In that moment, what do you think you would have done if the animal suddenly closed the distance? Johnny B was hiking through a forest with his friend, who also served as his cameraman. During their walk, they came across a cliff about 50 feet high and decided to attempt climbing it. His friend climbed first, recording each step during the ascent. Everything seemed to go smoothly with no immediate signs of danger. When it was Johnny B's turn, however, the situation quickly changed.
You good? Yeah, all of it.
He slipped and fell, but managed to avoid serious injury and later joked about the moment on social media. Online reactions were far less forgiving. Many viewers criticized him for trying such a dangerous climb without proper gear or safe technique. While impulsive decisions can add excitement to outdoor adventures, risky activities like climbing require preparation. Being prepared is essential, and Johnny B was fortunate he was not higher when he fell. The fall could have been fatal. What would you have done in that moment, and would you still take the risk without proper gear? A crew from Real Loose Adventures traveled deep into remote Australian bushland, hunting some of the most dangerous game found in the region. Large, aggressive boars roamed the area, with miles of dense scrub separating the team from the nearest help. They had no idea that one of these hunts would come dangerously close to ending in tragedy. The day started normally as the group moved through thick palm country with their dogs, successfully bringing down several boars in quick succession. By midday, the heat became intense, forcing them to return to camp and wait for cooler conditions. As evening arrived and temperatures dropped, they headed back out to continue the hunt. The dogs soon picked up a fresh scent near a swampy area filled with century palms, and that was the moment when everything suddenly changed.
Good boys. Good boys. Good boys. Good boys. Holy demon. Nearly. He hit me, his nose hit me. Boom! That was the closest I've ever been to getting ripped up. Jumped a few boars when you put up trees, but I'll just explain it. The ball was sitting straight through here. I couldn't see the dogs either side, so I didn't know where they were going to run, so I risked it. And I sort of tried to step around here, and I got out, turned back, and he come right here, and I jumped. And then I think the dog saved my ass, and he was still coming for me. Whew!
After coming dangerously close to serious injury, the incident shows how quickly a hunt can shift from controlled to life-threatening in the Australian bush. Situations like this serve as a reminder that one mistake or poor decision can have lasting consequences. If you were there, would you still take the risk, knowing how little time there is to react when things go wrong? In January 2023, Jeff's otherwise normal evening was interrupted by a sound so disturbing that even experienced outdoorsmen would struggle to explain what kind of animal could have made it. It was around 9:15 p.m. when he stepped outside with his dog, something he did every night. The temperature had dropped to about 10 to 15 degrees, and the conservation land behind his home stretched for miles. That land formed a vast wilderness of marshy ponds, winding river systems, and dense forest. The terrain was so difficult to cross that much of it remained largely unreachable. Standing in his backyard, Jeff heard something unusual that immediately pushed him to grab his camera.
But of course it stopped as soon as I started. All I can hear right now is dog barking, I think. Pretty sure that's a porcupine. That's not what I heard. Heard something quite different. But that was a porcupine. Way off in the distance is dogs still going crazy. Even though it's night, is basically conservation land. There's like a marshy pond. There's some private homes. Really, in a direct straight line, it's probably forest for a good, extremely difficult to get into wetland pond. It just becomes inaccessible as it gets marshy. You just start to sink into these holes of mud, and you just give up. You can't walk any further because it's just not conducive to it. Oh. There it is again. That's what I heard when I first came out. That is terrifying. That was either like the biggest, sickest coyote, or I have no idea. Wow. I've heard coyotes many times out here, all hours, like wolf type call to like a pack of coyotes yelping with a kill. Fisher cats. Foxes, I know that they sound crazy. That is totally different. That was deep. Oh my God. Tell me what that is. It's at the 4-minute mark, roughly. My motion detector light just turned off, and I've heard that howl twice now. Well, 3 times. The first time I couldn't catch it, and then the last 2, I'm out of here. That was probably just the house settling, but that was spooky. Someone's gonna have to tell me what that sound was. It's not one I've heard before. Keep getting spooked by, like, I think ice falling off of trees or something, so it sounds like something. The dogs, I don't know if you could hear the dogs still kind of barking crazy nonstop, because that was loud. First one was definitely louder though. The first one, when I first came out here, before I could even start recording, that was really loud. I was walking, so it sort of mixed in, and it didn't register with me until the tail end of it. I'm guessing it's, I don't know, 10-15 degrees out here. It's 9:15 p.m., something like that. Typical time for him to go out. I've heard coyotes at all crazy hours of the night, but that was different. That's just a motorcycle or something. The porcupine kind of freaked me out for a second. So it's not the porcupine. That other sound.
Even in the darkness, the area beyond his property was clearly conservation land filled with wetlands, waterways, and thick forest extending far into the distance. Although a few private homes existed nearby, the land directly behind his house quickly turned into uninterrupted forest. Much of it was extremely difficult to reach with muddy wetlands and unstable ground that made walking nearly impossible. To this day, no one has been able to definitively identify what caused those sounds. Some believed it may have been an unusually sick coyote, while others were far less certain. Encounters like this highlight how limited human awareness becomes after dark in remote areas. When visibility is low and sounds travel unpredictably through wetlands and forest, even familiar environments can quickly feel unsafe, turning hesitation or curiosity into unnecessary risk. Uploaded on July 7th, 2025. This footage comes from a newly created Channel 1 that seems to document someone taking their first steps into solo forest exploration. According to the description, the idea was simple. Take a short nighttime walk to test new gear, capture a few shots, and return shortly after. But what the camera ultimately recorded was far from routine. The clip opens with dim flashlight footage moving through dense trees. There is no music and no narration, only the crunch of leaves beneath each step and the occasional snap of a branch somewhere beyond the beam of light. The forest feels suffocating, quiet, and unnaturally still. Then something shifts.
Just gonna ignore that. There's the next path. Here it is. Just gonna have to cross over this. The fuck? Just a minute. I saw something. I'm just scared, guys. What's that? Okay. Strange. Definitely hearing things. Okay.
A pair of glowing eyes catches the camera's light, faint and distant yet unmistakable. The figure doesn't move. There is no sound and no reaction. It simply remains there upright, watching. The person filming does not zoom in or move closer. Instead, they quietly speak into the darkness, uncertain about what they are looking at. Later, they describe the shape as humanoid, tall, completely still, and strangely proportioned, something that did not clearly resemble an animal. Clearly shaken, the explorer backs away, and the recording ends soon after. What makes the moment especially unsettling isn't just what appears on camera, it's the way it appears. There is no dramatic editing, no sound effects, and no jump scares. Only raw footage from someone who clearly did not expect to capture anything unusual. Could it have been a prank? Another person wandering through the woods? Or perhaps an animal caught in the light at the perfect angle? Possibly. But the upright stance, the silence, and the complete stillness do not easily match those explanations. There is no conclusion, at least not yet. The uploader left a note in the description saying they plan to return and investigate the area again. Whether that actually happens remains unknown. Until then, one question remains. If you were alone in the woods and saw that, would you keep filming or would you run? The YouTube channel Roadie usually features calm vlogs about life on the road, showing nature solitude and the freedom of truck living. But in December 2017, one particular video stood apart from the rest. In this upload, the creator looks back on a disturbing situation that occurred earlier that year during a routine night of car camping. While parked in a lot and attempting to sleep in the back of his truck, something unusual began just after 1 a.m.
So it was probably around like 1:30 in the morning when I heard someone walking around my truck. And whenever you're sleeping, somewhere public and you hear somebody walking around outside your truck, it's always a little bit alarming. So what you'll see here in a second, he pulls out his phone and starts taking pictures. It looks like of my license plate or something like that. I'm not sure why he was doing this. So I thought maybe, I wasn't allowed to park there and he was taking pictures of my license plate, but it's kind of odd to be doing that at 1:30 in the morning. And he didn't look like a security guard or anything like that.
A hooded man started slowly walking around the truck. The truck bed where the creator was sleeping was completely dark, making it likely the man didn't realize anyone was inside. Unaware that he was being recorded, the man pulled out his phone and began taking photos of the license plates and different parts of the vehicle. For several minutes, the individual continued circling the truck. The uploader stayed silent, watching from inside as the man moved suspiciously around it. He didn't look like law enforcement or security, and for someone to photograph a private vehicle at that hour in that manner was clearly unsettling.
He comes back around and tries to shine his flashlight into the back of my camper shell. You'll see here in a second. And I just bang on the window, and he takes off running. So he probably wasn't expecting that.
The situation escalated when the man moved to the side window and tried to look inside using a flashlight. At that moment, the uploader decided to reveal his presence, striking the interior of the truck with his fist to startle the intruder. The reaction was immediate. The man panicked and ran away without hesitation. Although the uploader was unharmed and the man never returned, the intentions of the late-night visitor remain unknown. It could have been someone scouting the vehicle for theft or possibly something worse. Whatever the case, the uploader's quick reaction may have prevented a more dangerous situation. Considering the man's suspicious behavior, several possibilities come to mind. He may have been planning a break-in unaware the truck was occupied. His lack of any uniform or clear purpose rules out most official explanations. The fact that he fled so quickly after being discovered suggests guilt, or at least fear of being caught. If the uploader had remained silent, the outcome might have been very different. Would you have stayed quiet or confronted the stranger sooner? Phil, the creator behind the Hike Slam YouTube channel, is well known for documenting his hiking adventures throughout Virginia. But during an overnight hike in November 2021, just one day before Thanksgiving, his trip took a strange turn. He had planned to explore a portion of the Appalachian Trail close to home, expecting a quiet outing. But only 30 minutes into the hike, something began to feel wrong.
So some Bud Light cans, plastic bat, some writing on some of this garbage. This one. Hangman is coming down from the gallows. Song lyrics, other weird things. Well, hopefully I don't get murdered out here. That would totally ruin my day. Well, let's keep going.
Along the trail, he noticed a scattered pile of trash beer cans, random debris, and most notably a bat all covered with unusual scribbles. One of the objects even contained lyrics that referenced a hanging. At first, Phil dismissed it, joking about the odd discovery and continuing along the trail. But the farther he walked, the stranger the situation became. Soon after, he came across another unsettling sight, a recently dead duck that appeared to have been placed deliberately beside a long handwritten message. The note had been carefully positioned between rocks untouched by moisture and seemed to have been left there recently.
The weirdness continues. What the hell? And there's a dead duck here. A very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently killed. Alright. Kind of creepy.
The duck also appeared fresh, which made the scene even more unsettling. Concerned by the repeated discoveries, Phil decided to change his plan. Rather than continuing to his intended campsite, he turned around and hiked 2 miles to a nearby shelter, hoping it would feel safer. But the strange pattern didn't end there.
The weirdness continues. What the hell? And there's a dead duck here. A very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently killed. Alright. Kind of creepy.
That evening, while flipping through the shelter's logbook, a common Appalachian trail tradition where hikers leave notes and updates, one entry immediately caught his attention. It wasn't the message itself at first, but the handwriting. It looked almost identical to the writing he had seen earlier on the trash and notes along the trail. When he read the entry, the situation became even more unsettling. The message referenced unrelated song lyrics, time spent in jail, religious passages, and scattered political commentary.
So, I'm going to check out the shelter log here. I hang out by the fire. Almost every shelter on the Appalachian Trail has a shelter log where people write in their trail names and what's going on. They can write whatever they want in there. So it's kind of cool tradition here. So let's see what this one says. Little engine. Back section. Hiking again finally. Great day on the AT. This was in August. Huh. Someone left some PBRs here, I guess. It's nice and little trail magic. Some comics and writing and stuff. Alright, let's see what's happened recently. Holy crap. Wait a second. Hold on, I'm gonna adjust the camera here. This writing looks almost exactly like the writing that was on that garbage a couple of miles from here. Let's see if this makes any sense. Sorry if the lighting's bad. I'm just gonna see what it says. Cleaned the outhouse. Picked up trash. Collected wood for others. See Charlie Daniels' Simple Man lyrics, which I used in 2013 Facebook post. And note the rope I found with the silicone sealant can 2 miles south of that. I left it on a stump. In 2018, while I was incarcerated at the Okaloosa County Jail, what the heck? In solitary confinement, I figured the following out. Refer to Isaiah 28:15 through 9. Here in early 2017, Trump, Nebo, allowed Obama to have the special use of the Air Force One for a trip to Palm Springs. This is the same ramblings from the guy that was on the other side of the river. That's kind of scary.
All written in a tone very similar to the earlier notes. This suggested that whoever left the original messages may have traveled the same trail and could possibly still be nearby. Later that night, as Phil tried to fall asleep, he heard footsteps approaching outside the shelter. The sound slowly grew louder, confirming that someone or something was nearby. Feeling exposed and uneasy, Phil quickly made a decision. He packed up his gear and hiked back to his vehicle in the dark. The pattern of notes and the disturbing placement of the duck suggest that this was intentional, not random litter. Whether the person responsible was unstable trying to send a message or deliberately attempting to scare hikers remains unknown. The matching handwriting found miles apart only adds to the concern that Phil was not alone on that trail.
That's it for tonight. Which moment creeped you out the most? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story? Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.